Hello and good evening. I'm Don Arleth and welcome to Flash News. The United States has reached an agreement with Germany on the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. The U.S. and Germany have committed to impose sanctions on Russia if it blackmails Ukraine or other countries in the region. In addition, the U.S. and Germany are to support Ukraine in its efforts to diversify its energy sources and the so-called green transition. Germany has also pledged to work to extend the Russian-Ukrainian gas transit agreement.
This is a bad situation and a bad pipeline, but we need to help protect Ukraine, and I feel that we have made some significant steps in that direction with this agreement.
According to the political website, Washington representatives pressured Ukraine to hold off on criticizing the agreement with Germany. American diplomat Derek Chollet, who is visiting Warsaw and Kiev, denied this information. No, it's not true. Ukraine is a democratic country. It has its voice. Chollet is expected to brief the capitals of both countries on the details of the agreement with Germany. The United States has in fact given a green light and a free hand to Germany in the construction of this gas pipeline with very vague and very general wording regarding possible security mechanisms. Criticism of the deal is already coming even from the U.S. Congress, where both Republicans and Democrats are highly critical of Nord Stream 2.
I rise to express my deep concern on the issue of transatlantic energy security. The Kremlin and complicit European nations are seeking to complete the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. This Russian malign influence project will increase Vladimir Putin's leverage in Europe and disrupt the NATO alliance.
The agreement stipulates that if Russia decided to use gas supplies as a blackmail tool against Ukraine, then Washington and Berlin could impose export limits on Russian gas. The Nord Stream 2 agreement does not provide any concrete security guarantees in case Vladimir Putin wants to use gas as a weapon again with the Nord Stream 2 project. The agreement proposes a $1 billion German investment in Ukraine's energy transition. Berlin was also to pledge to use the tools at its disposal to get Ukraine's gas transit deal with Russia extended by 10 years.
Poland is ready to present its arguments to the European Commission. This is in response to an ultimatum issued by Brussels, which threatens financial penalties in case of failure to implement the decision of the EU Court of Justice. The case concerns a ruling on the functioning of the Supreme Court's disciplinary chamber.
According to the Polish government, the Court of Justice exceeds the competences granted to it by the treaties. For this reason, many European countries have in the past failed to implement the decisions of the CJEU. The CJEU adjudicates on matters that concern the EU treaties and should do that in this respect. Unfortunately, recently, not only in the case of Poland, but also in other countries of the European Union, it goes beyond these competences, which raises emotions not only in Poland. As experts point out, there have been many doubts about the activities of the CJEU on the EU forum. This is why in many countries constitutional courts have examined whether the CJEU may interfere with national law. National constitutions have always prevailed over EU law in the matter of the justice system. The Constitutional Court of Germany, the Constitutional Court of Romania, the French Council of State, which is the equivalent of the Constitutional Court, or the Supreme Court in Spain are recent cases. This is yet another time Poland has been targeted by the European Commission. A few days ago, the Commission announced that it is initiating a procedure on LGBT people in Poland and Hungary. The reason why the Commission is investigating Poland are the alleged LGBT-free zones. The problem is that there are no such LGBT-free zones, and if someone would like to prove it, then maybe we'd even appreciate it. At the same time, the European Commission has begun work on further directives that will drastically tighten environmental regulations in the EU. It will be very difficult to bear for the society, for citizens, because these 12 directives are really hitting all areas. For example, in 14 years, combustion engine cars will not be allowed to be sold in the European Union.
Celebrations for Police Day were held in Warsaw. President Andrzej Duda thanked police officers for their service. A minute of silence was held to honor officers killed in the line of duty and those who died from COVID-19.
These people were alleged to have extorted millions in grants from the European Union for nearly a decade. Thanks to the efficiency of the Central Investigation Bureau of Police, 11 persons were detained and over 90 charges were brought against them, including participation and management of an organized criminal group. Several properties were also searched, including the company's headquarters and an apartment used by the suspects, securing documentation and electronic equipment, as well as cash and various currencies. Police operate on land, water and in the air, intervening several thousand times a day and performing the same number of controls on roads. You fulfill a unique, extremely important role guarding the security of the state and its citizens, serving the nation and the Republic of Poland, also risking your lives. Recent months have been marked by increased risk. During the pandemic, police officers conducted nearly 80 million checks on people in quarantine and more than 1 million checks on buses, streetcars and shopping malls. Each of these interventions was accompanied by a real risk of contracting coronavirus and fear not only for their own health but also for the health and lives of their loved ones. The police is one of the largest employers in the country. It has over 100,000 uniformed full-time employees and 27,000 civilian employees. The effectiveness of the Polish police is evidenced by the data of the European Statistical Office, placing our country in the lead of the safest countries. This success did not come from nothing. It came from your determination, your courage, your consistency in fighting crime in our country. The effectiveness of the police is to be even higher thanks to its modernization.
Violent floods have hit more than a dozen towns in China's Henan province. 25 people were killed. According to meteorologists, this is the worst flooding in this part of the country in 1,000 years.
This woman was rescued, but many people were swept away by rivers flowing through the streets. Subway travelers found themselves in a tragic situation. The train cars turned into a deadly trap. According to reports, several people died here. The flood was too strong and people were carried away by the water. I and those who were left almost wanted to give up because we didn't have enough strength. But we held on tightly to the railing. Lying in central China, the city of Zhengzhou, a city of 12 million, has been completely flooded. The powerful water broke one of the dams near the city. Highways and railroads were underwater. We were able to evacuate over 500 people and repair dams and reservoirs at 2 locations. In total, more than 200,000 residents were evacuated. In 4 days, as much rainfall here as the average annual rainfall for this city. There is actually unprecedented rainfall in terms of intensity. 200 millimeters of rain in 1 hour. I honestly do not remember such numbers. Not only in Asia but also in Europe, this vacation floods have become increasingly destructive. There are a lot of calculations that show an exponential increase in these extreme events we are already observing, and the future does not look rosy. Because such phenomena, scientists point out, are further evidence of how dangerous climate change can be. Hot air, and that's the version of climate change we are dealing with this year, is air that can contain massive amounts of water. This, combined with dynamic storms, will have the effect that in many places on Earth we are going to see more and more of these events. A powerful typhoon is approaching China and is expected to rain there until tomorrow.
A COVID certificate is required to enter the cinema or theater. Such regulations are now in force in France. The authorities in Paris encourage people to get vaccinated and present hard data. Out of 18,000 new cases, 96% are unvaccinated people.
Certificate of vaccination, COVID-19 virus in the past, or negative test result. Without this in France, from now on, we will not enter the cinema, theater or museum. The 4th wave of infections has hit France, and as doctors predicted, mostly unvaccinated people. Of the 18,000 new cases we recorded last 24 hours, 96% are unvaccinated. In France, the number of infections increased week on week by almost 130%, in Austria by more than 100. Large increases also in Lithuania and Germany. In Poland, the downward trend of 3 months has just been reversed. This 4th wave, unfortunately, is also inevitably approaching our borders. One could say that it is slowly beginning to knock on Poland's door. Already near half of new infections in Poland are Delta variant infections. In mid-June, it was just 8%. Again, we're back to the development of the pandemic, the increase in the number of people infected, and we're going to see higher and higher values every day now. The examples of the UK and France have made it clear that the new wave of diseases affects the vast majority of unvaccinated people. Vaccination is virtually 100% protective against very severe disease and against death. In Poland, we just surpassed 33 million doses administered. At least one has been received by 47% of the population. Fully vaccinated is 43% of Poles.
The coronavirus pandemic has greatly reduced the physical activity of Poles, especially senior citizens. And regular exercise guarantees high immunity and good general health. So it's worth taking advantage of this summer during vacation and start an active lifestyle.
Sport is health. Unfortunately, over the last pandemic year, we have forgotten this. Fear of coronavirus has limited the physical activity of seniors to a minimum. And this is a mistake because regular exercise not only improves immunity but also prevents many serious diseases. We reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, that is the issue of hypertension, heart failure. We also improve our lipid profile. We reduce the risk of developing degenerative complications due to the fact that we are constantly running, we are in motion. Physical activity of elderly people also has an impact on their intellectual performance. It allows them to retain their perceptiveness and ability to concentrate longer. In addition, sport is an excellent way to reduce stress and improve mood. These Poznań seniors know this, who after a long time of sitting at home decided to take care of their fitness and most of all of their health. I really like the exercises, the company, you get out of the house. The saying goes, sports is health, we meet twice a week. We have about 180 to 200 senior exercise groups per week. That's 3,000–4,000 people every week participating in physical activity classes. Sport is also a therapy recommended by doctors after a severe course of COVID-19. Such physical rehabilitation is supposed to improve their respiratory capacity devastated by the disease. It takes time for such people to get back into the shape they were in before the disease. Sometimes it is even impossible. Your GP may refer you to a rehabilitation respiratory center. Physical activity for seniors should consist of two main components: daily exercise in the form of walking or climbing stairs and a scheduled 30-minute workout. Keep in mind, however, that all exercise must be tailored to your age as well as the medical conditions you suffer from.
Only 2 days remain until the opening ceremony of the 32nd Summer Olympics. Although the pandemic situation in Japan is not improving, more cases of infection have been detected amongst athletes today, as the battle for medals has already begun.
Although the Olympic torch will be lit the day after tomorrow, the sporting competition in Tokyo has already started today. Softball players and soccer players have their first games behind them. This is a good sign for the other athletes and fans after the words of the director of the organizing committee of the games yesterday. We don't know what the coronavirus data will be in the coming days. What direction the discussion regarding the Olympics will take depends on them. Cancellation of the event seems unlikely, although the Japanese are mostly opposed to the event being played at home. Therefore, the restrictions in Tokyo for visitors are extremely strict. Before entering any object, temperature measurement, that's not all. Journalists accredited for the games can only stay in designated hotels. In each of them there is a security guard who checks if the restrictions are respected. His tasks include checking whether we leave the building for more than 15 minutes for purpose not related to work. Every journalist must also fill out a special form every day. In it we enter comments about your mood and body temperature. We travel only by delegated buses or cars, to sport facilities only. Here we are practically not allowed to do anything but train, other than going out to eat, which we have here at the hotel, and that's all. Even our volleyball players' order of sushi to the hotel failed. It is not easy. Despite the difficulties, you have to focus on the sport and the goal, an ambitious one. At the end of the day, when we are done with our work, we stand on the balcony and see that we have reached a nice moment, but after a while there is another word that is not yet the end, that we came here for something more. Just like the world champions. We came here for a medal, we know we have the quality, we have the team for gold, and we know we can afford it. Now we have to prove it on the field.
The British Royal Mint, despite the pandemic, is doing well. It has just revealed that last year, a dramatic year for many industries, was indeed excellent for it in terms of revenue.
The profit reached almost $30 million, and this was largely due to the idea to immortalize on coins the images of famous figures from the world of music. Among others, David Bowie, Elton John, or musicians from the band The Who. The new coins are the fourth installment of the Music Legends series, which the Royal Mint honors the greatest icons of British popular music. Nina Gomez from Rio de Janeiro is only 4 years old, but quite mature in her environmental awareness. Under the watchful eye of her father, she learns about the polluted side of nature and tries to clean it of waste. In the process, she also learns about the dark side of human nature that allows the environment to be disregarded. Little Nina knows that garbage in the world is not only an aesthetic problem, but above all a threat to future generations. Safari not only in the wild. In Atlanta, Georgia, you can experience African adventure without leaving the city. Just go to the local Illuminarium. There, lions, elephants and flamingos are at your fingertips. And that without the threat of wild beasts. You can watch them on screens on which nature appears in its natural dimension, and the lion roars so that shivers go down your spine.
And now we go to the UK, to the River Thames to be exact, where the annual swan upping, or counting of the swans belonging to the British monarch, has begun. The ceremony is 800 years old, dating back to the 12th century. In those days, birds were considered a delicacy and served at lavish banquets. It's a good thing we don't eat swans anymore. No, we just up them instead. Well, that'll do it for tonight. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Good night.